Welcome to Refi TV. I'm Samantha Rowan, and our guest today is Shlomo Chopp, a managing member of Case Property Services. Thank you for being here today, Shlomo.
Thank you, Samantha. Thank you for having me.
I'd like to start off with a 2-minute overview of Case Property Services. Could you just give me the big picture about what you guys do?
Certainly. Case Property Services is a property turnaround firm focused on distressed commercial real estate properties. Our particular focus is on properties that serve as collateral for CMBS loans or Wall Street loans. And it's a space that has a lot of addressing to do. And what we attempt to do is bridge the gap between the owners/borrowers and the various other parties, counterparties, such as CMBS lenders and other parties, other lenders in the market.
Cool. You work with borrowers who are negotiating with special servicers, as you said, on distressed properties. How hard is it to bridge the gap between what the borrower wants and what the special servicers want?
Well, Samantha, I think there's two real ways you could go with that question. The first thing is to discuss who are the borrowers and are they already negotiating with the special servicers. And in reality, the borrower is one of really two guys. First is someone that has tremendous experience when it comes to working out properties, dealing with the banks, dealing with the courts, understands what they're doing. However, in the scope of the CMBS world, one or two moves that otherwise would be really nothing major could really doom the workout from the start. So, unfortunately, sometimes they come to us after the problem has already started and we have to come in and try to clamp off the bleed, so to speak. So, and they're already talking to the special servicers. The second borrower type of borrower that we work with is the guy that has a property that the income is just not covering the full amount of the debt service. And he's never defaulted on a loan in his life, doesn't want to default on this loan, but at the end of the day, he's coming out of pocket every month for $10,000 to $20,000 or whatever it is. And he doesn't even necessarily know that he could work with the special servicers. So we need to explain to him that, hey, if you want something from the special servicer, you got to give them something in return. By you spending this money every month to subsidize their interest payment, which isn't going back into the property, it's evaporating that money, then you're not going to have that money when it comes time to work out. So let's stop subsidizing a loan that exceeds the value of the property, and let's start figuring out how we could gain concessions in return for this new investment into an LLC, which is essentially what it is. Now, to speak to the question of, and just to tell one more thing on that line, we've identified there's about 5,500 loans representing $53 billion right now in the market that are sub 1.0 debt service coverage, which means the borrower is coming out of pocket, but yet all of these loans are current.
Really? I had no idea it was that.
It's a shadow market, and all the various reports about how things are getting better doesn't take this into account. So this is a trouble that has to be addressed, and some borrowers address it, some don't, and we help them through the process. Now, the question of bridging the gap. You know, I always joke, if you take a specific space in a building and you give it to an operator to fill up, he'd find a leasing agent, he'd come with a marketing plan, and he'd lease it up. You give it to a lender, he'll say, oh, put up $2 a foot in reserves and we'll just, you know, everything will take care of itself. There's operator language and there's financial language. Operator language is, how could I make this property worth more? How could I increase the value of the property? How could I keep everything operating smoothly? There's lender language, which is, keep my loan current. I don't want to hear no stories. What's my collateral? What's my security? What are you going to pay me? Okay? Our job is to take the micro information we get from the borrower, synthesize it, and translate it to a point where it translates into the macro information that the lender is looking for. Unlike some of my other colleagues in the business, to be quite frank, we focus on bridging that gap, because the last thing we want is the lender gave a great concession in their opinion because they thought the property was worth 15, and my borrower thinks it's worth 5, and the lender gave a great concession, but the borrower is never going to be happy with it. So you first got to get them both on the same page as it comes to value. Then, only then, could we start the horse trading. We'll give you this if you give us that, and etc. So that's really the gap, and those are the issues. And once you get over that gap, it's mostly smooth sailing from there.
That actually is a really good segue to my next question, which is about recovery rates. And is this kind of understanding and knowledge of bridging the gap and helping people to do that, is that something that will help recovery rates?
You're hitting on a hot button issue because, you know, sometimes, you know, the saying of help me help you, right?
Right.
So A special servicer is so determined to make sure they don't leave money on the table that they, with the same actions of trying to recover the last dollar, they push away dollars. And I'll explain how. I'm a borrower. I know nothing about dealing with special servicers. I don't know about the underlying documents, the pooling and servicing agreements. I don't understand what they can or cannot do legally.
You just know about your property.
I just know about my property.
Yeah.
I come to them, make a proposal. The special servicer says, no, make another offer. This is what happens every time. Every special servicer works this way. No, make offer. He says, no, make offer. No, every offer he makes, they say no. At a certain point, the guy gets frustrated. He says, I can't get anywhere over here. Forget it. Take the property. Does nothing for nobody, because what happens is the special servicer, yeah, he's glad he foreclosed on it, but then he has an REO manager internally who isn't an expert operator, oversee third-party leasing and management guys who they're not beholden to anybody because the guy above them isn't necessarily holding them to a standard because he can't, because he's not an operator. So you end up with a situation where a property can decay easily and values decay easily, as opposed to a special servicer, when a borrower approaches them, says, hey, here's where the deal's got to be. Make a proposal in this range, let's work it out. Yes, you'll leave some money on the table, but across the board you'll have higher recovery rates.
Against the backdrop of everything that we've talked about, we're seeing interest rates rising, and it's how is this affecting negotiations with borrowers and servicers in distressed properties?
Well, there are many people, a lot of people believe that interest rates doesn't affect loans that are in place because the loans are locked into flat rates usually. I think that interest rates affect the market tremendously, and it really goes back towards the shadow market that I mentioned about the loans that are underwater. There are a subset of those 5,500 loans. I have the stat. There's about 1,650 loans, CMBS loans out there that have the following character, and they represent $13.2 billion, right, all these loans. They have the following characteristics. Number one, they mature within the next 36 months, which means they'll have to refinance at new rates. Number two, the current rates are less than 6%. Okay? Number three, they're all below a 1.0 debt service coverage right now, which means the guy's subsidizing it every month out of pocket. His saving grace always was, well, I'll refinance at low rates, or I'll turn around the property. But as the market is leveling out and as interest rates are going up, his chances of refinancing out for the full amount that he owes go less and less. So his monthly amount that he comes out of pocket to write a check for 10 grand or whatever the number is, it's like, why throw even that small money out if I'm going to have to write a check for $2 million down the road? I need a comprehensive restructure, or I'm defaulting, have a good day, take my property. That's going to take a whole subsection of those numbers we discussed and put it right into default today versus wait for the rush tomorrow. So I think the rising interest rates really mess with the borrower's business plan going forward and can affect defaults even today.
Now, one hot button issue for the industry has been governmental intervention, and there's been a ton of press about that over the last few years. Is there a need for governmental intervention in the CMBS market? And if so, what's needed?
Okay. Wow. I'll put it to you like this. Private, in my opinion, again, this is a very opinionated topic. Everyone has an opinion with regards to governmental intervention. I mean, the country is run by that divide. But in my opinion, private markets work best when they're private, they're kept private. If you need any proof, just see how well the government runs itself. The government waste has become a noun. I mean, that's something that's understood by everybody. So to get the government involved into a private enterprise is probably not the best move and should be avoided at all costs. That being said, let's take a look at what we're dealing with over here. We're dealing with loans, even in today's market, after the downturn, where lenders, CMBS lenders, are making loans that the rating agencies are crying foul over. There's loans that originators are saying that they're 75% LTV, but after the rating agencies get done with it, say it's 95% LTV.
Or even more than 100%.
Yeah, and they're using the pro forma income approaches and all these other goodies in order to get maximum proceeds because they're tripping over each other to put out money. The problem is, what's enabling them? If there wouldn't be a demand, they wouldn't do it. It's very simple. The demand is there via the B-piece buyers. B-piece buyers are the guys that eventually employ the special servicers, the guys that deal with first trouble. These are non-rated, call it junk bonds. These B-piece buyers are continually buying these loans, okay? So long as there's demand, there's going to be a supply. Now, you may say, well, great, let them invest, let them lose money, who cares? Okay? The problem becomes is when it's no longer a private individual being a B piece buyer, but rather a fund that takes money from other sources that potentially, again, I'm not privy to where the sources of capital are, but potentially can be from Joe Main Street, who works hard, puts aside $100 a week, puts aside some money to invest, and this money goes into B pieces on highly leveraged loans. So at a certain point, if the stewards of your money, the funds with whom you put your money, don't watch your money and go after aggressive lending in order to enable the Wall Street lenders to put out money so they could just make fees, maybe, then somebody has to step in. I don't want to say it's the government, but I don't know who else could do it. Now, the problem becomes when they overreach, and invariably the government always tends to overreach. They tend to throw out the baby with the bathwater as opposed to focus on the underlying issue. There's smarter people than me tackling this, but I could only tell you what I see on the back end.
So we have time for one more question.
Yes.
Can commercial real estate workouts be more like corporate workouts, or is that a pipe dream?
Well, we're trying to do that. We're trying to explain to a borrower or an owner of a property saying, hey, you have a property that you always felt was, hey, it's location, location, location. I have a building, I get a tenant, great. But commercial real estate has branched into so many other industries, including finance, including there's economic development, the various cities that are affected. And when you have a problem, you need to look to all the people that are involved and evaluate your assets, liabilities, and move forward in a manner that helps the property recover. Right now, it's not being focused in that way. It's saying, hey, you got a problem. Who's the problem with? The problem's with the lender. Let's focus on the lender. Well, the lender's got underlying issues. Maybe the municipality could help you with some type of incentives to bridge that gap between once you negotiate your deal and the lender's at $10 and you're at $9, you need a dollar difference. Perhaps the municipality could come in. So you need to look at all the avenues, just like corporate workout. And I think we'll eventually get there as you'll find more and more sophistication enter the commercial real estate market.
Oh, that's very good to hear. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I'd like to thank you very much for being here. And I'm Samantha Rowan, and this is Refi TV.